Okay. Let's start just talking about, who you are, where you're from,
Okay.
um, and then I'll, pick it up from there.
Yeah, man. So, like I said, my name is Keyshawn Phelps. I am the mindset shifter, and I am from Newark, New Jersey. I was born and raised there, oldest of five, right? And just if you're not too familiar with Newark, New Jersey, man, it can be a really rough and hostile environment, right? So you got to kind of have that right mindset to understand that there's a bigger thing at task at hand. So just not trying to fall, victim to your environment and your circumstances. And man, like I said, I engineer as well. I got my bachelor's, from Virginia State University. Currently wrapping up that master's, getting that systems
Okay.
engineering. So just kind of, keep patting that resume and that knowledge, man. And that's just uh, who I am. I'm an engineer, motivational speaker, and that's just who I am, man.
Definitely. What inspired you to get into engineering?
The thing that inspired me to get into engineering, man, honestly, man, I always love like Iron Man. I always love like that technology type of thing, and I always
Mhm.
wanted to build and design things. So I think that was one of the sparks of getting into engineering. But one of a funny story to tell you, man, I was always honing in on sports, right? I always just wanted to do that. That was my go-to. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to the NFL or NBA. And I remember my sixth grade year, man, I got in trouble for being a class clown, and my mother was like, "Listen, you ain't playing ball this year, so you gotta do something else." So she took me out of sports to try out that year, and had to go to a robotics club, man. And at the time, I resisted that. I was like, "Why she put me in this? Like I want to play ball."
Yeah. Yeah.
And after school, man, we used to tag up and we used to just design and build a Lego robot to go ahead and get it, tested in an obstacle course, and that seasons to a technology. And even though we placed in third place, man, it was just an experience just to see building something, programming something, and actually going through obstacle course to get to get the fastest. I think that was one of the amazingest things, man. That's why I think that was why I wanted to become an engineer.
Definitely. So what you do now in terms of your day job, day to day, what does that look like?
Well, so I work for a space and defense company, and my day job as a systems engineer is just making sure that everything is working properly, making sure that everything is up to date, just solving a lot of problems and issues and things like that. Just making sure that our projects is going completely in the way it's supposed to go.
Definitely. Growing up in New Jersey,
Yeah.
um, talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
What was that like? I'm from the west side of Chicago. I kind of
Yeah.
have an idea when you
Uh-huh.
describe it, but go a bit more into detail about that.
Man, Newark, New Jersey, like I said, it could be a really beautiful place, man. But it's a lot of violence and crime due to, like I say, poverty stricken, due to not a lot of financial things that's helping us out. And it's just a lot of bunch of people then just trying to make a way out. And sometimes, that can get discouraging for some people when it's not happening immediately. So we tend to just be around a lot of violence, a lot of gangs, crime. But in a sense, man, when you in it and when you growing up in it, you don't look at it like that. It's like we all family, right? We all friends just trying to make it out. So you try to look at your circumstances as not as bad until you get out of it. You realize, like, man, like I lost a lot of friends and family members to the jail system, to drugs, to the graveyard. So it's like that started painting a narrative in my mind and understanding, like, man, like maybe this is all we good for. It's just crime life, but somebody got to be the one to change that mold, change that mindset, and that's the reason why I wanted to be that person.
Definitely, definitely. Why you? Why did you want to change that mold?
Because man, like I said, I seen so many times, man, like my father, lost him to the system at an early age. Just seeing friends and family just passing and losing to the street life, and also too, man, just seeing my mother work. Right, my mother, man, that's my role model right there, man. That's my heart, and she just always was so prominent on making things happen for me and my family, my little siblings and them. And I just kind of wanted to be the one to help take some of that burden off of her. That was always my goal, is just understanding that I wanted to change the dynamic of what my family was going through and just trying to make things better. And in the sense of that, kind of expanded to not just my family, but making everyone that I come encounter with be the best that they can be.
Definitely. What would you say is the way or the top or the key path
Mhm.
to breaking that mold if someone finds themselves may not be in New Jersey, maybe on the west side of
Right.
Chicago or
Yeah.
Brooklyn or Harlem or, LA.
Yeah.
What would be the steps to getting out of the system, the cycle?
Yeah. I think one thing is too is investing in knowledge and telling ourselves, learning our self worth, learning who we actually are. And once we understand who we are and always start getting those tools, I always say, man, exposure leads to expansion. So once you start learning different things, exposing yourself to different things, you start to feel like, oh man, I have more to a purpose than just doing what I'm doing to my day to day. But after you have that understanding of I want to be better, next thing is switching up that environment. For me, I always had opportunity to, like I said, when I went to college. For me, it wasn't just about the school, right? It wasn't just about like, oh man, I'm about to get a degree, but just me removing myself from my everyday life in Newark, New Jersey, and just going to a college where I see people that look like me that is educating themselves. That kind of like sparked the thing. So I say it starts with the mind, feeding the mind positive things, investing in knowledge, and then going to surrounding yourself with people that's want to be better, like-minded people, and then also just that environment as well.
For sure, for sure. You talk about feeding the mind. How do
Mhm.
you think, you know, in the age of social media
Yeah.
technology, that could be challenging
Mhm.
for some people? How is that possible, or how can that be done consistently in this
Day and age.
era, this time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly, man, it's all about perspective and what you do and what you put your time into, man. I think that's one of the things that I always say. We all have phones, we all have computers. You have certain some type of way to find out information, but what you're using it for is what determines what you get out of it. So if I'm on social media every day and I'm just sitting here worrying about the latest gossip, of course I'm not going get nothing out of it. But if I use my platform to get on to people like you, like your podcast, man, I start learning things by just having conversations, right? I start searching things on the internet that helps expand. Okay, I want to get into real estate, right? I want to get into stocks, whatever it is. I want to start a business. You can find that information out by just searching. So I say in this day and age, I think we at the peak right now, man, because you can use technology to the best of your ability as long as you use it the right way.
for sure, for sure. The mindset shifter. Why that particular term for you?
Yeah, because I love that term, man. Because for me, growing up in the circumstances that I grew up in, I always had the victim mindset of like, "Whoa, me! Like, my pops wasn't in my life. Like, I ain't got enough money to do this. I can't do this. Like, nobody never did this in my life." So I used to always make excuses for things until I changed my perspective, switched that mindset, shifted that mindset from understanding of like why to understand like why not me, right? And understanding that okay, I come from this me, why not embrace it? Make these weaknesses my strengths. And as I started changing my perspective on certain things and things that I was going through, I realized like most of the stuff that I was going through, I was making it more of a problem than helping me make a solution. And I think once I shifted that mindset, that was the best thing for me. So I call myself the mindset shifter because I want to help other individuals that's going through certain things see a different perspective on how they going through that, how they attack that, how they overcome that. And I think that's one of my biggest goals of why I say the mindset shifter.
For sure. In terms of you talk about being a victim, all right.
Hmm.
I think that's like paramount now. Like you see
Hmm.
that all over, everywhere. Everyone's a victim
Yeah.
for something, for something. Um, and it seems like a lot of people, or I should say, it seems like society has, instead of, your message, you got to
Hmm.
get basically pick yourself up, and try not to make things worse for yourself. It seems like
Hmm.
society has pushed people into this status of victim and they get rewarded for it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the thing about that is, first and foremost, is like sometimes it's okay. Like I said, I always give grief to some people, or grace, I may say, to some people that are dealing with things because we all deal with different things. But the thing about it is not sitting there and moping in it. That's why I always, every time I have a conversation with someone, it's okay to, to feel hurt. It's okay to, embrace your feelings, but it's time. It's time to pick them that weight back up. It's time to keep going forward. And I think that's the thing. But I honestly feel like if it's getting rewarded for being a victim, I think that's one of the things why I feel like we have us as a society have to distinguish what a victim is and somebody that just not caring about their life. And once you realize that, and once you differentiate that, we can, I feel like, help individuals a little bit better.
Definitely. What how would you make the distinction between a victim and someone that just doesn't care? They have no motivation,
Yeah.
uh no drive.
Yeah. The first thing is, man, you gotta want it yourself. Like you gotta want to be motivated, right? You gotta want to meet me halfway, basically. You gotta want to have that drive to I want to be better. Everyone that I speak to, right, even what they're dealing with, they always like, man, I want to do better. I want to do this. And that right there, I meet them halfway. I always meet them, okay, this is where you at. How can we get here? And I was having a conversation of the day with a young man, and a prime example of helping somebody motivated. Every time he kept speaking to me, he just kept saying, like, man, I want to do this. Like, I'm going to do this, but, and every time he kept telling me all of the great things that he wanted to do, he just kept putting barriers in front of everything he couldn't do. And I was just at it, and I stopped him and I said, man, like, what are you great at? Right? He started rambling out a lot of stuff that he is great at. And I said, see, like, let's hone in on that. Like, let's not worry about all the stuff that you don't have, but understand that everything you already have is within here. So how can we make things better? And I think that's one of the biggest things I could differentiate someone that wants help, and someone that's just like, I really don't care.
For sure. What do you think is the key takeaways from your book? Talk about your book, um,
Man,
and why you wrote it.
Man, the mindset shifter, man, bigger than the odds. I feel like this book right here is not only a book about my life and from growing up in Newark, New Jersey, and the struggles of coming up in Newark, New Jersey, but also to where I am today. And I speak a little bit about the lessons along the way that I learned and how it made me the better man that I am today. And in this book, I hone in on self belief. That's being one of the prominent things that I talk about is believing in yourself and understanding that it all starts with you, it all starts with the mind. Secondly, I talk about a game plan. We all have to have a game plan because if you don't have a plan, you having a plan to fail. And that's one of the things where I feel like, we need to hone in a little bit more on the plan because we all say we want to do this, we want to do that, but we don't have a plan to get there. And we wonder why we're not seeing the results that we're seeking. And also talk about executing how important it is to put that game plan into action and become a doer and not just sitting there, just sitting on that plan. And last but not least, I talk about the power of networking in this book. And all of these strategies that I give and all of this information that I give can help someone propel their lifestyle, their career, as well as just, make them motivated to say, I'm going after anything that I ever wanted to do. And I think this is why the mindset shift, the bigger than Oz book is really important and should be in everyone's, library and be in everyone's desk and reading every day.
For sure. Define self-belief.
For me, self-belief is saying, for me, is no matter what anybody else say, I know that I'm valuable. I know that I can get up and do things. Anything that I put my mind to, I know I can achieve. And I think that's for me was the power of self-belief. Getting yourself up to understand that, listen, I'm good at what I'm doing. I'm great at what I do. And if I'm not, I'm going to learn to get better. And I think that's what it starts with, the self-belief is picking yourself up when you feel like, you're getting down.
Definitely. Do you still live in your hometown or have you
No,
moved? Where are you?
no, I moved. I'm currently in Florida. Like,
Okay.
currently in Florida and Melbourne, Florida.
Okay. Why
Yep.
Melbourne?
Yeah, that's like outside of Orlando.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yep. So I'm currently in Florida, like I said, working as engineer. But I'm always frequently still back in my hometown, still giving back, still doing scholarships and spreading my voice and things like that in my community as well.
For sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Um, I told you about this thing I like to do. I say a word,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you say first thing that comes to your mind, and we'll see
Okay.
where that goes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Manhood.
Wow, man. Manhood for me is understanding that I'm a man of my word, that at the end of the day, I need to be responsible for everything that I do. And if I give you my word, I need to stand on that. And as a man, I feel like one of the greatest things that we can do is show up for ourselves, show up for those that are around us, and understanding that we are capable and we are powerful in doing that. So I think that's what comes to my mind when I think of manhood.
Definitely. You said as a man, showing up for yourself. How can I guess I would say it's kind of taboo for men to show up for themselves
Hmm.
in a sense, right?
Hmm.
Expected to always show up for others. And in many senses they should.
Right.
Um, how would you say a man, should show up for himself?
Taking the mental notes, man, and taking time to understand who you are. I think that was one of the powerful things that helped me is understanding who I am, what I'm great at, and knowing what I'm possible and capable of doing. And once I start to understand that and hone in on those type of things, now I can impact people better. Like I can be a great, family man. I can be, whatever I put my mind to because I know within I'm at peace. And I think that's one of the things why I say, honing in on who you are and understanding that manhood inside.
Definitely. Next word,
Mhm.
relationships.
Mm. Relationships is key. When I think of relationships, man, I feel like relationships can get you in doors that degrees can't, that certificates can't. Relationships is the currency to your career, to your life. We all need relationships, man. And I think that's one of the key things that I love and I hone in on. When I meet someone that is elevating and helping me out, or and I can provide, advice and game for them, like I always hone in on that relationship because that helped me get to certain places in life, man. So relationships, I hone in on that. Love
De-
relationships, man.
Definitely. Hope.
Hope, man. I feel like hope for me is we all have it, we all want it, but just understanding that it all can be achieved if we have a little bit of hope, a little bit of faith. I would say faith as a mustard seed, and that's what I think about when it comes to hope is that little light at the end of the tunnel. We all yearn for that. We all say, man, like when is this storm gonna be over? And that's having that hope and having that faith.
Definitely. COVID.
Oof, man, I think COVID was a really, really tough time for uh, a lot of people. A lot of family members have been lost, and I think that was a tough time. And so when I think of COVID, worst thing I think of is um, I think of sadness for a while because we lost a lot of great people due to COVID. And I think one of the other things that I when I hear COVID is adaptability. Like our whole
Mhm.
life changed. Like a lot of stuff changed, man. And
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
and even to
Yeah.
this day, right? I always complain, man, that like you remember when Walmart used to be like like 24 hours open late, man. So you could
Yeah.
go there,
Yeah.
get your grocery shopping, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, man, but you got to get adjusted, man. And so a lot of things has been closed, because of COVID. And I feel like we're still trying to rebound from those impacts of COVID.
Definitely. Do you think, speaking of the Walmart not being open 24 hours and, even gyms,
Yeah,
they do this thing now, which gets on my nerves.
yeah,
They do this thing now where they're 24 hours in their marketing and advertising, but
yeah.
they only really 24 hours Monday through Friday or Monday
Friday,
through
right?
Thursday or something. And
Right.
that's all, post COVID.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think COVID has changed about our mindset, like as a country, as a people, as human beings?
Well, for my everyday life, I feel like COVID made us hone in on taking a lot of care of everything that we touch, everything that we do. I see now that everyone's like now is so cautious about doing anything because of it.
Mhm.
So I think for me, COVID put a fear in a lot of people. I feel like COVID has made a lot of people don't want to interact in big crowds, and that's respectable and that's understandable. So I think that's one of the things that COVID impacted our mindset, but and it's on honing in on that.
Mhm. would you say, that's more of a good thing or bad thing?
Depending on how you look at it, I feel like it's a good thing to certain aspects because it's like we all have to be better with taking care of everything around us. And the thing you mentioned about the gym, which I love, you see after someone working out now, like the procedures, wiping down the equipment. And I think that's really good because I know after I want to use a gym, I hate to lay in somebody else's sweat, man. And I just think about like, that's just not right. So I think certain things that we learned from COVID is just keep it up after ourselves. That's something that I say it is a good thing, but also too, like I say, I don't really see um, a lot of interacting as much because of COVID. So it's a lot of distancing and things like that. But if we can get back to moving in a safe way, I think that'd be a great thing.
For sure. Next word, legacy.
Mm. When I think of legacy, I think of when I'm long gone that my name still ring bells, my name still come up even after so many years I have been gone, and I start a legacy that others can follow, others can look up to. When I think of legacy, I think of individuals like prime example Nipsey Hussle, right, and all of the great things that he has done, before his transition, but we still to this day talk about Nipsey Hussle and all of the great things that he did, all of the blueprints that he left. We post them on some of his quotes and his videos on social media. And when I'm long gone, I want people to repost my videos. I want people to read my books, right? I want people to say, man, like this guy was a pioneer. This guy motivated me like no other. And I think that's what I think about with legacy is just creating that dynasty and that last name to ring on forever.
For sure. Think about the dynamic of, you know, the legacy that rappers, as you mentioned, leave behind,
Mm.
people leave behind. I'm here in Memphis. I don't know if you are familiar with this rapper, Young Dolph.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, he was killed here. Memphis
Yes.
is his hometown. He was killed here in Memphis, visiting home, killed at a local uh, cookie shop right near the airport. And being here, working here, living here, you see what he did for his city where he was
Yeah.
from, right?
Yeah.
And you see, despite all whatever the topic or whatever he rapped about or whatever,
Right.
he still had a sense of goodness, if you will, right?
Yeah.
He still gave back, but
Right.
he was killed. Same thing with so many other rappers. What are your thoughts on that in terms of that type of violence in reaction to someone who does good, typically in their home city, their hometown?
Yeah. Man, I think it's a sad thing, man, because like I said, it's always a tragic thing when we lose anyone, but especially someone that was doing good in the community and giving back and trying to change the narrative of how things are in our neighborhoods. And I think the thing that I'm more like I said I'm sad about is that because that puts fear in a lot of people that do give back. That puts fear in a lot of people that say, you know what, I'm gonna stay in my hometown and I'm gonna change it right here and there because of the examples that we keep seeing of people that go back to their neighborhood and meet these circumstances. So I think, like I said, that for me is really heartbroken because I love my city and I love when I come from, but it's like sometimes the mindset of others, don't have any care for anything else in the world. They only care about just they making, the money or they're getting out. It's kind of like that crab in the bucket type of mindset.
Yeah. Next word would be struggle.
Mm. I feel like struggle for me built my character. Struggle for me built who I am today because it allowed me to know where I come from. It gave me that hunger. It gave me that motivation to say I got to go out here and do it. And I think for me, um, struggle really changes a lot of people' motives sometimes as well. So it's like be careful of how you interpret that struggle. And I always say that's why about the mindset because if you use that struggle to say, you know what, I'm gonna decide to do this because I ain't got nothing. That type of enhancing that type of struggle kind of put you on a path of destruction. But if you can hone in and say, man, this struggle is building me for something greater, then like you say, you will see those results that you're seeking for.
For sure. How has struggle changed your motives?
For me, I feel like struggle for me gave me an understanding outside of the motivation of like trying to, change the dynamic of my family, trying to be the best that I can be. But struggle for me gave me understanding and understanding that, listen, some people are doing these type of things, or some people are not motivated because of struggle. So but I come from that, so it's like I understand, and now I'm here to help, and I'm here to help guide you because I'm speaking from experience. So I think that's how I feel about that.
Definitely. In terms of a situation, what would you say growing up in New Jersey was one incident situation that stands out as a defining moment for you?
Well, there's a lot, man. There's a lot. I can just name just like losing a childhood friend, losing the people that I went to school with, and that was one of like the things that was really life changing. Is like you could be in a classroom with someone laughing and joking and passing them in the hallways to hearing detrimental news of their passing, and that right there kind of like strikes me hard because it's like, man, like they had a future, right? We all have a future, and sometimes it gets cut short because of like someone else's decision making, and that kind of hurts me a lot. But one of the things is like my mother, seeing her have to work countless jobs and hours just to try to provide for my family. I think that was something that gave me that hunger because I knew I wanted to help her out, and just like the everyday struggle, man, of seeing people consumed by drugs, consumed by just life and just life just weighing on them, man, and they just losing their hope and losing that faith to better themselves. I think that's been detrimental, just seeing that in the passing of just growing up.
Would you say, I guess my question would be, how do you navigate that losing childhood friends, right? I think just from I have obviously I don't haven't looked at any data on this, but it's just my thoughts. Um, Being a black man, black men more so than a lot of people in this
Yeah,
country deal with grief from losing a childhood friend, right?
yeah.
To drugs, to jail, or to the grave.
hmm
How did you navigate that?
the funny thing about it, or the sad thing about it, I should say, is when you're in it, when you're in that environment and you're growing up in it, it's another day. You start to get
Mm,
assumed by. You start to say, It's okay. This happened. This is normal."
mhm.
Until you like remove yourself from that situation in that environment, you start to see like, man, this is not good, right? This is not, you know, the way of life. Like I shouldn't be losing friends and family to, like you said, to jails, to the grave, to drugs at an early age. And as I started getting older and started expanding my environment, I started seeing that, man, like it's some things that we deal with that we still haven't fully healed from, and I think that's has been really, really detrimental to someone's growing up and how they see the world and things like that. Like for me, growing up, I always felt like I had to be, once I got out of my environment and things like that. I felt like I had to be hostile. Like I'm from Newark, right? So it's like, listen, like nobody going play with me. Nobody's going to do this or that. But after a while, it's like, listen, nobody's disrespecting you, man. Like you just having a regular conversation with someone that doesn't just fully agree with your point right now. You don't have to resort to violence, but that's how much we
Mhm.
so taught, growing up, is that like, look, it's either me or you type of thing, and that kind of plays a part in people's mindset as well.
Definitely. Would you say that, or I guess the question is, I'll phrase it like this. What would you say, being an author, motivational speaker, college graduate, working on your master's,
Mhm.
engineer, which in my opinion, you have to be extremely smart to be an engineer. It's a lot of math.
Yeah,
I barely got my multiplication tables right.
yeah,
So you got to be a very intelligent person to even
yeah.
consider engineering. I
Mhm.
try and I ended up in journalism, so that tells you everything.
But
But
you decent at that, man. So that's all that matters, man. You found
I
something good
appreciate
at.
that. I appreciate that for real. But what would you say to those childhood friends if you could, from where you are now, say
Mhm.
something to them?
One of the things I would say to them, man, is that like it's possible, man. It's more to life than just our neighborhoods, our blocks that we claim. Like we bigger than what we going through, man. And understanding that, listen, like if we help each other, if we educate each other, man, and help each other, like we can get more further in life than what we decided to do. And also just saying that together, like there's so much opportunity out here, man. If we just come together and just take our time and being patient. And I think that's one of the things I want to hone in on is patience. A lot of times we feel like we don't have the time because of what we're going through. But if we can just master just the patience and understand that it will get better, like this storm won't last forever. Like that's what I would tell, to my childhood friends is keep staying in it, keep grinding, man, and find something that you're really good at, turn it into a business, man, and elevate your life with that and impact others while you do that.
Definitely. What are you most grateful for?
Man, I'm most grateful for life, man, and family. I think that's one of the things that I've recently been, understanding is which is really, really important. A lot of times we get so caught up in chasing materialistic things, cars, clothes, house, whatever, but we kind of forget about the things that really matter, which is like say that love, that peace within, family, smiling, man, just waking up is just a blessing in it. And I kind of starting to, enjoy those simple things of just like I said, just waking up, going in my backyard, man, and just relaxing, man. And I think that's kind of one of the things where, like I said, I'm so grateful for. And I'm grateful for the position that I'm in. I'm grateful that I'm able to now learn so much and do so much and now give it back to others. I think
Mhm.
that's like something that I really enjoy. I love talking to, young men and young women and just encouraging them. The other day I was speaking, man, and this goes in on to the point that I was speaking about just about that piece. In a class that I was speaking at, there was a lot of kids there, right? Some was like, I want to be here. Some was like, man, I don't really care about what you got to say. But it was this young man, and he was homeless, but he was the most happiest person in there. Like he was the most gittery. He was the most person that was like just happy for life. And I asked him, like I asked each and every one before I start my speeches is like, what are you proud of? And everyone went around like, oh man, life, whatever, things like that. But he was like, I'm just happy to be here. I was like,
Wow.
man, and I'm like, man,
Ah,
I was
yeah.
just stressing over this. Like I was just
Yeah.
stressing over that, but you happy for just being here and being for life, man. And that kind of, sparks me in understanding that listen, everything that we want, and everything that we think we need, we already have.
Wow. Everything we think we need, we already have.
We
Wow.
already have it, man.
Yeah.
And that speaks to a little bit about what you were saying earlier about the social media. Sometimes that we kind of get caught in like, oh man, like I'm 27, I'm supposed to be a multimillionaire by now because of this person doing it, right? So it's like comparison is the killer of all joy, man. But when you really sit there and I sit down and say, man, I come all the way from Newark, New Jersey, single parent home, father incarcerated, oldest of five, and all of the struggles with them, the things that I dealt with growing up in my environment, to overcome that, to be now, like I said, award-winning engineer, motivational speaker, man, and an author. That right there in itself, like, is a blessing, man. And not too many people can say that. So honing in on that and understanding, like, man, I am doing great things in life.
Yeah. A homeless kid saying, I'm just grateful, happy to be here." That's
Yeah, and
and
that touched me, man, because I said,
yeah.
man, like we sit here and we complain about a lot of things, man, but it can be worse. And that was another reason why I, honed in on just enjoying what I do because it can be worse, man. It can be, and I'm blessed, man.
Definitely. I want to read you this quote.
Mhm.
Get your reaction to it. The purpose of life, as far as I can tell, is to find a mode of being that's so meaningful that the fact that life is suffering is no longer relevant. What are your thoughts on that?
Can you read that again?
The purpose of life, as far as I can tell, is to find a mode of being that's so meaningful that the fact that life is suffering is no longer relevant.
Oh, okay. Yes, man. I love that. I like that. For me, when I hear that, I think of the why. That's what I get from it. I think of what makes you keep getting up every single day, striving to be great, striving to do something. What is that why? And for me, like I said, it's family. It's just trying to change those that are going through the struggle. And for someone else, it may be different. But when I hear that, I think of the why, that thing that sparks in you, that motivation to keep going, keep getting back up after you keep falling down. That's why I love that. I like that quote, man.
Definitely. What in terms of what's next for you in terms of
Mhm.
your goals, I mentioned the word to you, legacy, but
Yeah,
goals are obviously more immediate.
yeah.
What's next for you?
Next for me, man, is just getting across these stages, going to all these different schools, man, these different environments, just traveling, spreading the motivation, helping people shift their mindset. And I feel like, man, like I'm growing to a point where, like I said, my voice and my legacy is going to expand each and every day that I keep, doing these different seminars, different, workshops. And like I said, for me, that's my next goal is just keep continuing building that audience and keep trying to get that word out and helping other people shift their mindset. Because I always say, once you shift your mindset, you will unlock your potential. And I wholly believe on that.
For sure. How do you, when you do these seminars, go and speak to people? How do you
Mhm.
structure that? What does that look like for you?
For me, it's all based off of what the organization or the company or the school is looking to push. For instance, like some schools said, "Man, I want you to speak on what you think is needed for success." Some people speak, man, just the power of overcoming something. And for me, another organization which I did recently, I talked to them about being not only a good decision maker, but being a great decision maker and moving forward. So all based off of what the organization is looking to push. So that's kind of how I structure the beginning parts of what I'm gonna talk about, what I'm honing, and what my message is going to be surrounded. And then from there, it's just a lot of research, man, and understanding what the organization stands for. Just trying to hone in on that, just trying to push that message and learning a lot of things that I can help elevate them.
Definitely. What would you say is the most significant situation or person you've had to forgive that didn't give you an apology?
Hmm. Person I had to forgive that didn't give me an apology. I think a lot of times, man. For a while, my pops, right? For a while, me and him didn't see eye to eye, and I was kind of upset with a lot of things that was transpiring. But like I said, I always forgot, man, that like he was a young man, and that went through something at a young age. He made a decision that kind of altered his life, but just giving him forgiveness and giving him grace and understanding that, man, like we can move forward, right? And I think that's one of the things I say, um, that I try to continue to move forward and keep building that relationship as well.
Definitely. I think one thing, I grew up in a single parent
Mhm.
household. Um, for a minute, then my sister stepdad,
Yeah,
my, my mother and my sister stepdad got together.
yeah,
But the relationship between me and my biological father was and still is, if I'm being honest,
yeah,
non-existent.
yeah,
And I don't personally think I was ever angry. I
yeah,
don't think I was ever bitter or anything about it. Um, but I did have certain questions like
right,
why this? Why did you
yeah,
choose to do this?
yeah,
Why didn't y'all stay together? Et cetera, et cetera. And one thing I had to learn and realize is that parents are people too.
yeah,
And they had me, yes. They brought me to this world, yes. But before they even thought to have me, they had a life.
yeah,
Um, and in a way, I'm just an addition to that, whether they liked it or not,
uh-huh,
and the circumstances in which that occurred, you know, is not necessarily my fault, and in some ways not their fault.
Yeah.
Um, how did you, or if you don't mind me asking this, because I
Mhm.
think it could help people, because there are millions of young boys, men in
Yeah.
our position with kind of strained relationships or have had strained relationships with their father. Where is that relationship now?
Well,
And would you say it's in a good place?
yeah, it's in a good place now because, like I said, I had to forgive. I had
Mhm.
to get over myself. I think the thing that I was searching for at a time is like it was no longer needed at this point. But how can I move forward with him? Right? What are some of the things that I still can learn from him? And just understanding that, listen, this might be another person that I need to motivate. Right? This might be another person I need to help shift
Yeah,
their mindset. So how
yeah,
can I call myself the mindset shifter or someone that's motivational, but I turn my back on the ones that need it most? So I kind of remove myself and my feelings out of it and saying, listen, well, how can I meet you in the middle? And how can we make this relationship better? And ever since then, man, like I've been, things been, really good between that relationship.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, what else from your book you think, I'm pretty sure you talk about your book all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else in terms of talking about your book or people
Mhm.
asking about your book that you think people are missing that you want known?
Yeah. So about this book, right? It's when people see the face, they say, "Oh man, this book is just another book about him." But the thing about it, this book and all of the stuff that's in it can be applied to anyone's lifestyle, anyone's life or career, no matter if it's an engineer, no matter whether it's a business person, whatever it is, this book can help anyone that's looking to expand, looking to elevate their life. And I think this book relates to not just people that are in our age. Like this can help grown people, right? Now, one of the things of stories I was talking to someone that bought my book, right, and they said that at the table, because this is more so of read it and discuss it after type of book. I have discussion questions and reflection questions at the end. And the gentleman that I spoke to, he said that, man, I read this at dinner table with my family. He said, and after the book, I asked a question of, has there ever been a time when your dream had to change due to something? And he said he went around the room and he said he asked, his daughter, you know, uh, that question, and she's young, so she said, I wanted to paint a picture for class, but I didn't have the right coloring pencils to get that picture that I was looking for, so I had to decide on a different picture. Then
Oh
he said he
wow.
asked his son, what is something that you dreamed of, but you had to change it due to something? And he said he wanted to play basketball, but he realized that, all the other kids were super bigger and way more advanced and things like that. And then he asked his wife. And when he asked his wife said, I had dreams, I had aspirations that I had to put on a back burner because I had kids at an early
Mhm.
age. And they said, and she said that because now it wasn't, I got to find my passion. It was, I had to provide because I have kids now and I have a family that I have to take care of. And just seeing that, I kind of like said, wow, like this book is transformational for anyone that reads it, not just, younger kids, not just, kids that's looking to excel. This book can touch a lot of lives if people take the time to sit down and just understand that information and apply it. That's one of the biggest things, is applying everything in this book to your life. And I guarantee that you will see results that you seek them.
Definitely. People can get your book where?
So the people can get my book at my website at the mindsetshifter.org. Again, people can get this book at the mindsetshifter.org, my website. Like I said, this is a really good book, something that you need and that you should have in your arsenal if you're trying to excel and expand your career.
Definitely, definitely. I appreciate you taking the time. I think we talked about a lot. You really, you hone in on self, as you've said, self belief,
Yeah,
um, self reliance, really,
yeah.
and self responsibility. And I think
Mhm.
those are three things: self belief, self reliance, and self responsibility. Those are three things that aren't talked about a lot
Yeah,
nowadays. So
yeah.
I really appreciate your time, man.
Man, no, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you allowing me to get on your platform. And that's one of the things like I say, man, I truly appreciate that because you didn't have to. And you took time out of your Saturday on your day off to interview and have this conversation, which is really needed, man. So I appreciate you, man. And like I said, I could hope continue success in everything that you're doing, man. And if I ever, what I'm saying, in Memphis, man, I gotta come, what I'm saying, and chop it up with you sometime, man. So I definitely appreciate that, man. So best of luck to you, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate you. Thank you. And we'll be in touch, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.
Thank y'all for listening to all things Jay Shakur, be it Jay Shakur Uncensored, my long form talk, interview podcast, or the weekly brief where I bring you the news, not just the stories you know, but the stories you need to know. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share to this YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching or listening on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, share this with others. Thank y'all for watching.